I want to welcome everybody to the Mississippi Advisory Commission on Marine Resources for Tuesday, September 16th, 2025. And I will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Director, would you like to lead us in a prayer, please?
Yeah, and if we could, let's just go to the Lord in prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to be able to serve. And Lord, we just ask that you give each and every one of us in the Department of Marine Resources and this commission the wisdom to do it your way and not ours. And Lord, we just ask you to lead and guide and direct us. It's this in Jesus Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. All right, looks like we have the minutes here from August 19th. Do we have any questions for the approval of the minutes? We don't have any questions. Do we have a motion? All those in favor? Aye. Has everybody had an opportunity to look at the agenda? And if so, do we have any questions? If not, do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, Director.
Okay, let's see where I'm at here. All right, first thing up on is employment contracts. Okay. All right, we have a new hire and a promotion. I can't read it from here, so maybe y'all can. Well, I thought it was. It ain't pulling up. Anyway, y'all see who they are, and anyway, we welcome Michaela on, and also glad to have a promotion for Lindsay. Okay. All right. Next up, we have no contracts, I don't think. All right, agency update. Well, we got a seafood labeling laws that we're working on right now, and we have a meeting on this Thursday, and we're having our first meeting of the task force, and so hopefully we'll have some better understanding of which way to go with things and how to give better understanding for the restaurants, the dealers, the supermarkets, the processors, everybody, what we can do. So hopefully we'll have a little bit better idea of which way we're going. It's probably going to take us a little time. So we just asked everybody to be with us, and if you can, do the best that you possibly can to be able to label what you're saying, whether it is either domestic or import. That's all we ask you to do. Try to do it much as you can right now. I'm not asking you to go out and spend a bunch of money redoing all your menus and everything else until we get the things lined up. But whatever you're trying to do, we'll help you. We're here to help you, and we're here to be able to give you any advice if there's anybody needs any on any of that. Any questions on it? All right, on bottom oyster lease program. It's been put on hold with the judge's ruling, where he gave us a temporary injunction against being able to do anything. So what we're doing right now, I think that our lawyers may have done something to file for a motion to reconsider. I think that's right, Sandy. And so we'll see what happens with that with the Attorney General's office. But right now, we're as planned. We're got the on bottom as far as any leases. We are not allowed to do any leases on the on bottom right now until we get something further with this. So if you're thinking about the possibility of could you lease the properties that were not there, that were there prior to the other bills, no, because they've all been included in the new bill now, and because they're included into it, and also included into our rules, then we cannot lease any of those. If you already have them leased, then you can keep them. But we're not going to be able to do any new leases until we find something different about what comes out of this ruling. Patrick, you look like you wanted to tell me something. But anyway, I just want you to understand. So we cannot, it doesn't do any good to put in for a lease under the old properties that we had because they're all part of the new properties, okay? So if you have the old properties, you can still continue to operate. All right, any questions on that? All right, 2020, 1920, Bonnie Carey, basically, we haven't nothing but the update on the 19 to 20 we're still working on right now. I think we have like 275 applications submitted for it, and hopefully we'll get that out soon. Which, please bear with us. If you don't know, we've moved buildings, and and that's been a big chaos for the last month almost about what we could do and couldn't do and how we could operate. So that's really put a little delay on what we're being able to do. So just give us time, we'll get there. And I promise you, the team's working at it. The team's working very hard at it. Tracy and them are doing a very good job. And they're trying to work from home doing it. But now hopefully we'll be back in our location this week. So if you don't know where our new location is, it is, if you know where eFitness used to be, if you just come down Cedar Lake Road all the way to Dead Ends and take a right, eFitness is on your left, and we're behind eFitness. But you'll have to go down to the four-way stop, turn left, and don't turn into eFitness. Go down and turn left, like you go into the AJ Holloway ball fields and all that complex. And then when you get to it, turn left, and you'll take us right to us, and you'll see it on the left there. So we'll be there. We're waiting to get everything operational right now. We have the building operational. We're waiting on internet. And we got the internet. They had it hooked up last night. Everything was fine. And then we had a break between us and somewhere else. So we're trying to fix it. But hopefully we'll get something done, and we'll be back operational this week there. And just bear with us on it. Any questions? All right, Gulf Council meeting 24th through 27th in San Antonio was fine. We've already talked, we can talk a little bit about it, but nothing big. We didn't have any major things that came out of it. The Gulf Council is going to be here the first week in November. So I think it's the 3rd through the 7th, or I think it's the dates. So if you are, we'll be at the Golden Nugget. So it'll be a meeting there, and welcome anyone who would like to come and listen. Let's see, 2025 oyster season stakeholder meeting we had on September the 2nd. Had a great meeting over in Bay St. Louis. Finally was able to get together, and we got the task force together. The people were there working with us. We had a lot of people show up. We had a good meeting. It was very beneficial overall, because now I think that the oystermen feel like more like they're bought into what's going on, which I hope they do, because we want them bought in. We want 100% buy-in with them on what they're doing. And I think that with this meeting with the council, we're going to meet about once a month, or try to. And right now we're looking at the season, and I'll wait till Jason does a briefing about the season, but we are going to be able to open the season very soon. And hopefully we'll be able to I was very impressed, just put it this way. I was very impressed when I saw the oyster briefing that was done by our Shellfish Bureau. And I was very impressed with what we have and where we're at. And I'll just wait and let them tell you what it's all about when they do their briefing. Any questions? All right, let's see. Next commission meeting is going to be October the 21st. It's got 9 a.m., but I thought y'all said 10 a.m. Which one is it? 9 a.m.? Okay. Because I saw two different things conflicting there, but it's going to be at Jackson County Board of Supervisors. Is that a problem with anybody getting there by 9? Can you get out? Can you get over across the line by then? You think you can get that far? I think you got the farthest to come, right? You and Ronnie, I bet, would be the two. And if y'all can make it there, all right. So we'll be at we should do that anyway every year. We ought to go to Jackson County, ought to go to Hancock County and have a meeting. So this is great, and I think we may do. Crystal just whispered November, maybe Hancock County. So at least we'll be able to get some of this done while we're out of the building, and we'll be able to go to other places. Any questions on that? All right, derelict vessels update. We got 216 vessel cases that have been reported since we started tracking. 188 of them have been removed. 28 vessels are pending removal, and 5 have received court orders. That's pretty good. I tell you what, you can't hardly argue with that. If you go across the coast, across the Gulf of America, you will find out that Mississippi is about 5 times faster than anybody else doing it, probably 10 times to 100 times. Because, I mean, most places are just, they got maybe 10% or 15% of theirs removed, and we're sitting here at almost 90%, 80% of ours removed.
Joe, I got a question for you. If, like past Christian, we've got 2 that are down in there and have been for a while. If they're inside of a harbor, can we handle those?
We can look at it. If they're in the harbor, we can look at it. Just tell them to get with Stephen and them and talk to them about it. Roy, I don't know if Roy's here, but Roy and Stephen are the ones that's handling it. But if you just get that information to us, we'll look at it.
Okay, thank you.
We have removed them from harbors, I can just say that. Okay. All right, any questions on that? Do you have any public comment? TJ's in the back. If anybody has public comment, get it to him. But other than that, let's just move forward. Unless y'all got any other thing for the agency update, we'll move forward with the actions update.
Good morning, Commissioners and Director. Discussed at our August 2025 meeting, the Commission recommended and the Director approved a motion to approve a permit and requested variance for Jackson County's installation of a box culvert and riprap between Canty Street and Community Avenue. This also incorporated the covering of some coastal wetlands, vegetated and unvegetated water bottoms. Also included was the motion to recommend and approval by Director for a finfish record for conventional tackle for Brandon Hoag's 30-pound, 2.24-ounce conger eel. And that concludes our actions update.
Okay, any questions on that? All right, just one last thing. I'd like to thank everybody from the Department of Marine Resources, the staff, for your outstanding work. I tell you what, you're talking about a bunch of people working hard over the last couple of weeks. They have worked hard. They have really put out the effort to do the things to try to help us. You don't realize how hard it is to move 175 people. But when you're trying to move in offices and everything else and labs and do the things that we've done, I just want to thank each and every one of them. Can we give them a round of applause? Sir, that's my report.
Yeah, it's hard enough to get things done when you're settled in, much less relocated like that. So, all right, moving down to Commissioner's report. Do any of the commissioners have anything to report on?
I did just want to say, you know, throughout my travels in the state here in the past few months, it seems like on the country of origin labeling laws, like all of your, you know, national and multi-state organizations are really playing ball. And even up in North Mississippi and Jackson, I've seen excellent participation out of the locally owned businesses. So I think that everybody's doing a great job getting that word out.
It's good to hear. All right, Chief Wilkerson, report on citations.
I don't know anything about jet. All right, so August. Item was slower than July. Always good. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? There's a few citations that are not questionable, but if you have questions, I have answered. I'll try to lie to you. Not in saying that, but there's one that kind of jumps out. It was a charter boat that had had a violation that was in Biloxi. His license lapsed. Current license. Other than that, looks pretty self-explanatory. 1,300 stops this month. Going down a little bit, as you can tell. As of in July, it was like in the 2,000 range. So everybody's starting to slow down, go back to school, waiting for Christmas. So I can answer any questions.
Appreciate the update, Chief. Any questions, Chief? All right, appreciate it, sir. All right, thank you. All right, looks like we're moving all the way down to Charmaine, Public Affairs.
Morning. The Mississippi Department of Marine Resources had 23 media mentions since the August MACMR meeting. News items included the case with the Oyster Reef private leasing, gag fishing season, DMR calendar photo contest, shrimp season, and our seafood tech scientist who recently visited North Woolmarket Middle School. Brianna Andrews from the Grand Bay Near presented the On the Road program at Central Elementary School in Lucedale on August 27th. The Nears Emmett Carsons participated in the Gulf Coast Sierra Club meeting on August 27th and the Hancock County Master Gardeners meeting on September 10th. CSO Rick Burris and Coastal Resources Management Director Jennifer Whitman attended the Fall College of Forest Resources Career Fair at Mississippi State University on September 11th with a booth representing the DMR. Willa Brantley and Coastal Resources Management gave a Wetlands 101 workshop presentation on September 10th at the Pascagoula River Audubon Center. The Seafood Technology Bureau's Becky Hardgrove and Raul Inzola both visited North Woolmarket Middle School on September 11th to give a lesson in microbiology and marine science. And the agency sponsored the Biloxi Seafood Festival and featured a booth at the festival, which was held September 13th. We had hundreds of visitors at our booth where DMR staff handed out our publications, fish ruler stickers, and various items promoting Mississippi seafood in the National Heritage Area. And we launched our annual photo contest where the winning photos will be used in the agency's 2026 calendar. So we asked that submitted photos depict an aspect of the marine resources available in the Mississippi Gulf Coast, including recreational and commercial fishing, coastal preserves, marine plant and animal life, marsh areas, boating, and Mississippi seafood. The deadline to submit entries is Friday, October 17th, and they can be emailed to publicaffairs@dmr.ms.gov.
Yeah, hey, cruising the coast, I forgot to mention it. Tell them where we're gonna be at.
So Monday and Tuesday of, I believe, 6th and 7th, we are going to be at Jones Park, and that's where we're going to be giving out shrimp samples. It's going to be right outside the pavilion at Jones Park, and then on Wednesday we're going to be here in Biloxi for their in the morning for their, can't remember the name of their event, but it's Biloxi.
Green.
That we're also doing shrimp samples and promotional events. On Thursday, we will be in Pascagoula and Bay St. Louis, and we're going to have two different teams out there giving out promotional materials. And then on Friday, we will be in Ocean Springs in front of Dee giving out promotional materials. So we will be all over the coast.
All right, yeah, so, you know, if you get a chance, come by to see us. We're gonna be set up at a lot of locations, and, this is a big thing for Department of Marine Resources, and it's mainly for the seafood, because that's how we do it. We do it for seafood marketing, and this is all for to publicize seafood. When you get 10, well, you know, you got 10,000 cars, but you probably got 100,000 people that'll be down here, and 100,000 people, and a lot of them are not from South Mississippi. And for us to be able to sell what our seafood's all about and tell them about our seafood and tell them where the places they can buy it and what they can do, and to buy Gulf of America. That's what we're trying to do. And I tell you what, this is a big thing for us, so we appreciate anybody gets a chance to come by to see us. And we hopefully we'll be able to get a lot of word out to a lot of people.
It absolutely does. I can say from my experience, just the marketing that you guys have and the packets that every cruiser, what, 10,000 pick up. That's pretty good information. So, all right. Well, I appreciate that. Any questions for Charmaine? All right. Moving down to 2025-26 oyster season update by Jason.
Good morning, everyone. Mentioned, I will be giving a quick update on 2025 and 2026 oyster season. Go over the reef assessments. Talk about some So first off, this is a recap from last year's season. Opened on November 13th and closed on the 26th of April. Approximately 8,900 sacks were harvested. We had 156 licenses sold, and Approximately 80 harvesters had licenses that day. The average person per day was 12 tongers and 12 dredgers. We had good participation overall, even though we haven't had previously in a couple of years. Encouraging to see people come out on a harvest day. This is a map, an overview of what we sampled this year. Real quick, it's hard to see up here, but every point on there or triangle is a location that we see. As you can see, most were on mulch plants, but we did hit all reef complexes. We did 133 one-minute dredge tows and 303 square meter samples, which totaled 606 total. This is a good representation of everything we looked at. This is just in the western side. Did do Biloxi, not going to speak. Quick overview of where we planted since 2017. Every polygon that you see on the map up there is a spot that we've planted. As you can see, we have pretty good coverage over Pass Marianne, Henderson Point, and Pass Christian. Total acres planted since 2017 was 927 acres. So now I'll go into each reef complex and we'll talk about it and break it down. Brief overview to show where it's standing. So St. Joe, approximately 473 acres. We've planted 169 of those acres. Most of the material is on mulch plants. As you can see on the chart on the left, do see good seed, spat, decent market size oysters on there. That's a reef that shows progress, shows that the mulch plants are working down there. And if you look on the image on the right, it shows your spat sizes and shows that it's trending all about the same. But in the last couple of years, we've had good growth and good recruitment. Telegraph is a reef that honestly it's about 900 acres, but it's really tough down there. The sun not seeing great, decent recruitment, but into market size oysters, not seeing happen in the past. As you can see, the chart on your left, we don't see much. We haven't seen much in many years. We are going to continue to monitor that. Right now, that's Pass Marianne, about 2,400 acres. Approximately 100% of the market size oysters are on 280 acres of mulch plants. But we are seeing that we've put out mulch plants in this area, growing oysters. Everything's coming in nicely. We have a lot of seed there. We expect to see that seed transition into market size oysters in the upcoming year, next year. We did see a spat set in August, but we hope that grows in as well. Overall, oysters are on mulch plants. I'm going to keep saying this. We put out mulch material, the oysters are growing in the air, put out mulch material. Henderson Point Reef, about 1,300 acres, and 94% of the market size oysters are on 26 acres of mulch plants. That's a lot of oysters in a small amount of area. That means they're thick on those mulch plants there. That's great, but that means it's a large area, and oysters are focused heavily on. Need to diversify that and spread it out. Recruitment, we saw an increase in August and September. Spat set, that's always good for us to see. And the oysters per square meter on the reef are very good. Henderson Point being spat at almost 14 per square meter, 14 oysters per square meter. And then market size, we're seeing about 7 oysters per square meter. Overall, oysters remain heavily concentrated on the mulch plants, but the seed class will do come in. And Pass Christian, about 1,800 acres. Again, 95% of the market size oysters are on 463 acres of mulch plants. We see a healthy distribution of singles to 4-inch clusters. This reef is going good. That box in the top right would be our Tongan box. We're seeing a lot of oysters in that. And areas to the south are expanding. Overall, progressing nicely, and we expect to see, with the conditions this summer and this fall, we expect to see recruitment and continuing. So this is a
quick overview of where we're at as a in the Mississippi Sound and everything together. You can see we have about 275,000 sacks that we're estimating that's out there on the reefs. And if you look at the breakdowns, the percentages below, the 30%, which we traditionally recommend, is right at 82,000 sacks of wood. We look at the reefs independently. Henderson Point's doing very well, and Pass Christian's doing well for its size. Those coming in also. We did look back at the graphs. The reason for the jump is because we sampled state-owned reefs in those past years. This year we did. So getting into recommendations for the 2025 and 26 season, we wanted to show this and give an idea of where we were at last year, what we could do this year. So last year we were open for 42 days, started in November, of course, and then went as long as we could. We were open for 42 days. This year, if we open in October and go to March, we can hopefully get available around 150. That's where we're at right now. And time temperature matrix that we displayed below, this just shows when the harvesters are allowed to go out, how much time they have harvesting. They are bound by some regulations. They, different months, have to be back at the dock in October. It is 5 months, which is relatively restrictive, but then in November through March, it goes to 18. Wanted to make sure everyone was aware of that. Can't accommodate those harvesters time frames. Make sure everybody understands. Proposed daily harvest. We're showing this at 50. If we had 50 harvesters out there harvesting, and the stack limits are in blue across the top, first box, and with stack limit of 15 sacks per tonger, 20 sacks per dredger per day, at 82,000 oysters, they would have about 96. And as you can see, if you scale it up, the days go down. We did want to display this so y'all could understand where we're at and what we're trying to project for this season. This is a quick overview on our sampling. We had a lot of questions last year about how we sample and where we sample. Rainfall closure. If rainfall exceeds the threshold for a given area before 4 p.m., area closes the same day, 5 4. Rainfall exceeds the threshold for after 4 p.m., the area 5 p.m. the next day. We can sample in about 2 days. The map does demonstrate river stages that we close on, thresholds that we close on. So area 1B closes at 1 inch of rain or 10-foot river stage. Chart that we should do the industry and how to discuss. This is a new thing we have from Bonnie Carey, from the Bonnie Carey program. We were able to take some Bonnie Carey funding and develop a video for anyone that is in need of a license. Every time they need a license, every time they buy a license, every 5 years they have to watch them, come talk with them, how to harness. Past, they would come to the office, we'd sit down with them, go over it. Now they can go online, watch a video, take a quiz, do it at the convenience of their time. But we think this is going to be very beneficial for the harvesters. Get it done, buy a license. Digital harvest map. So if you're harvesting oysters this year, we do encourage everyone to use the harvest map, which is available on your phone, computer, laptop, whatever it is, and it shows what area is open. The red and green, simple map. If it's green, it's open. You are able to turn on your location services on your phone, and it will show you on this map where you're located, so you know if you're harvesting. We, of course, will have the hotline available still, but this is just another resource for people to have to make sure they're making the right. Contact information, Oyster Hotline still available, as I said. And then this year we are going to work to do a text message notification. Season opens or closes, we'd like to notify the whole that those changes to text message, stack limit changes, we will notify anyone that signs up through our text messaging program. So we welcome anyone to give us their number. We'll give them the contact. Contact numbers below. So where are we at with our recommendation? As Director Spraggins said, we did meet with the industry at the beginning of the month, had a long discussion about numbers and the appropriate harvest area and this year. And this recommendation was in partnership with the industry that we developed here. And the staff recommends to the executive director that the agency open Area 2A, Area 1B, Area 2B, Area 2E, Area 2F, Area 2G, 2H, and Area 2I in the western Mississippi Sound for oyster season. Season will open on October 13th. The daily sack limit will be set at 15 sacks per day per vessel for tongers, 20 sacks per day per vessel for dredgers. As I mentioned, we did develop that in conjunction with the place to start. If y'all have any questions, I'd love to answer.
Don't we have some reefs to the east? Didn't we relay oysters to right off of Ocean Springs a few years ago?
So we do have a reef in Biloxi Bay. We are monitoring that. It's showing good growth, but it needs a little bit more work. It's very limited thresholds that you can harvest from with those two.
Jason, when you say industry, you're speaking of who you guys.
So we held a stakeholders meeting, as Director mentioned, on September 2nd, and we brought in anyone that was interested in discussing the 2025-2026 season, as well as members from the previous task force. I gave this same presentation. We had a lot of questions about it, discussion about how to harvest, when to harvest. Season, they'd like to see it open a little bit earlier this year, so that's why we're looking at October. We feel like there's a resource there. We are able to do that. But we wanted to allow as much flexibility as possible. Recommendation was something that we came up with together as a group.
So, and I'm,
Mr. Livings is here. Do you have anything you'd like to say? He's the head of our task force.
so I'm looking at the 2024 sacks. It was only 8,900 is what we ended up with. So we're opening it up and we're going to end up roughly 9 times where we were in 2024.
So that's one thing. That's a great question. One thing that we looked at in the last couple of years is we were only we were only harvesting from those areas, limited area. Take the numbers as a whole, our numbers increased drastically, and it is fairly substantial increase over. Those oysters were out there last year. We just didn't sample them and include them in our estimate for our harvest.
Okay, so in like your communications with the industry, just because it is such a big jump, like spreading it out among the most possible days, then, you know, you're confident that they can keep the price up and get a good value for the product.
So we did speak with, and I spoke with John about that yesterday, and I think we are open to working with them. If there's changes that are needed in the future, we can adjust up the sack limit, lower the sack limit. Right now, they feel confident to get a price for it.
Okay, thank you.
You know, we could have possibly opened earlier, but I think it was a lot to do with the processors. Some of the processors just didn't have the staff to be able to do what needed to be done. And this is going to help us a little bit because we will be 2 weeks ahead of Texas. So that'll help us a little bit there because we open 2 weeks ahead of Texas. And Alabama, I think, opens on the 6th, if I'm not mistaken. So we're a little bit behind Alabama, but and of course, Louisiana's open right now, I think. So they pretty much, you know, but the ones that we're looking at, and then something I didn't realize was Virginia. And when Virginia opens, and Virginia doesn't open, they open around the same time we're opening. So that'll help us a little bit to be able, and the idea was, you know, how many sacks to do and how to keep the market. Like you said, if we see that we have a lot of bad weather and we're not able to get what we need to do, then we'll work with John and them and we'll talk with them and say, hey, what do y'all want to do? You want to change the limit? You want to do something else? What do you want to do to be able to do it? And then that'll also depend on the processes. Can they take it? You know, and what can we do? So I think we got something working now. I think we have something working to where that the people that are out there busting their butt every day doing this and harvesting these oysters, that they have a lot of buy-in and they're with us and they're telling us what they would like to see done, and so we can help. We're going to look at it too, and we're going to talk about culch. We're going to have culch in the near future, and we're going to have some funds to do that with, and we'll work with them on that. Where do you think we need it the most? And let's work with it. And our staff's going to do a great job on that. And I want to commend Jason and his staff. They've been over backwards. It's kind of like you're on probation or something. They've been that way for the last 2 years and 2 to 3 years, where they didn't know what they could do. They didn't know what they was going to have. They didn't know what they was going to be able to maintain. They didn't know anything until we had some kind of understanding. And so they were only able to do what they could. And they wasn't, and it's hard to go out and spend state assets on something that we don't know the state's going to control anymore. So they did a great job of trying to do what they could. And then once they found out that we could be able to open the rest of this for at least this year and then hopefully some more, then they went over and they busted their rear end to get out there and do an assessment. They really got out there quick and did everything they could to get their assessment out there. So Jason and the team, thank y'all. We appreciate you.
All right, any more questions for Jason? Man, I really appreciate it. Very, very easy to read and understand. Very well put together. Do we need to make a motion? Okay. All right. Do we have a motion to approve the staff recommendation for the openings of the oyster season?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thanks, Jason. All right, Trevor, you're up. Mississippi Creel.
All right, I'll take the stand here. All right, so we've got a bit of a dense presentation here, but it's multifold. So one is just to let y'all get a little bit more detailed look at what the program is and what it does, give you an idea of really how we got here and what's going on, let you know and ask questions about the program and where it's going. I'll start off by saying that, I've been here for going on almost a decade, but this has been something we've dealt with, recreational estimates, for a long time. It's been well before me, and I feel like a lot of my time's been dedicated to it. This program represents what we view as the solution, and make no mistake about it, this is a fundamental shift in how fisheries will be managed at the federal level, all federally managed species. This is a huge change. This will be probably an asterisk that you look back to decades from now. This is just the start of a new way to be able to estimate removals and how the Gulf's going to work together as far as that aspect of fisheries management. So just a little bit of background. So on the creel side of things, trying to produce fisheries estimates, it's difficult to maintain an accurate mandatory catch reporting program across the board. We did it with a single species with tails and scales for a constrained fishery that operates in a constrained area, and it was proven to be successful. But doing this across the board means that you're essentially monitoring over 100,000 anglers, many of which might fish less than 5 times and access through multiple different modes and areas and everything else across the board. Because of that and fluctuations in the fishery as a whole, right? Not every fisherman targets the same thing. They don't go to the same place every month. They don't fish for the same thing. They don't undergo the same tactics. Everything shifts. So it's a fluctuating population. So the solution for these large populations is to use survey-based methods where essentially we interact with a small portion of the population. The need here is that the portion of the population that you are interacting with and getting answers from is representative of the entire fleet. That's one of the fundamental aspects of all this. And then you scale the observations that you have to the entire fleet. So because of this, you have to go about the estimates in a couple different ways. So one is that not only do we have to interact with the fleet at the dock to get a representation of what they're catching, but we also need to figure out how often they're fishing, because essentially what this all boils down to there at the bottom is catch times effort is essentially the harvest estimate. And because the individuals that we interact with at the dock oftentimes are those who represent a group that has a higher affinity or fish more often, if we ask effort specifically of those individuals, we'll likely get an overinflation of what our effort truly is. So therefore, we split, essentially effort and catch into two different programs. Some of the unique the challenges we face when it comes to fisheries-based survey is one, just understanding the scope and makeup of this universe. This program relies on our license universe in order to be able to get a gauge on how many folks are out there fishing and how many folks are licensed. You'll see where that represents a fundamental change. And then two is maximizing efficiency in encounters while minimizing bias. This gets into our site pressures and our probability-based sampling, which we'll go over in a table in a minute. And I'll underline this last one because it seems to be, to me, one of the most important things when it comes to fisheries managers, biologists, and really anyone working with the industry is knowing the fishery. Right? Oftentimes we interact with individuals at different levels on the federal side and everywhere else that don't know the fishery in and out. They don't know how it interacts. They don't know why they target what they target. They just see numbers on the computer screen and make decisions off of them. We've made it a purpose, especially with our staff, on fishery surveys and everything else. Get out, you talk to folks, you ask questions, try to understand the motives of the fishery, what they're doing at a specific time, because all that informs the fishery program that we've been developing. All right, so some background. Obviously, we're all familiar to a degree with the Marine Recreational Information Program, MRIP, the federal survey that really started in the 1980s, 1980 to be specific. It had multiple phases and revisions. So it started out as MRFs. It went to APIS, which is the Access Point Angler Intercept survey, the CHTS, Coastal Household Telephone Survey. And it's worth noting that there were issues all along the way that were fixed over time, right? There's been changes in how the survey was conducted. That's represented by all these different acronyms. The one that truly exacerbated the entire thing was FES, which is the Fishing Effort Survey. It represented a shift from the Coastal Household Telephone Survey to gauge effort into a mail-based survey that essentially was sent out every month to be able to anglers to determine how many times they fished. This essentially had our estimates of fishing effort increased by 3 to 5 times across the board. And it was that way for really everybody in the Gulf and the South Atlantic. And it's really been the true issue brought to the surface for everything that's been going on for the last few years. Let's see, so currently MRIP is the main currency that is used in federal and largely for a lot of state assessments. We actually implement the dockside portion of this survey, and then the federal side does the other. There has been some shifts for species like red grouper, even yellowtail snapper, things that are really centric to one state, and that's Florida, where they've used the Florida-based survey in replacement of MRIP in order to assess and manage the species. And that's essentially where we're going to try to get to with these programs as well. So here for MS Creel, you're all familiar a little bit as we've been discussing, but we essentially adopted the methodology from LA Creel and tailored it to our state specifically. Our effort sampling began in 2024 with the call outs, and we implemented the full program starting this year. And we have been running this program side by side with MRIP during the entirety of this year without any gaps or anything like that. And the entire estimate process from dockside sampling, effort call outs, and estimates is done in-house by our staff. Now, we have gotten aided by Louisiana. We have interacted with the other states, but this program is fully conducted in-house. All right, so I know there's a lot in this table, and this is the meat of the presentation here, but I'm going to try to go and essentially lay out the program by program differences and why, in our view, what we're doing with MS Krill is, to be direct, better. So one, the first part is the effort section. And the way that the surveys are delivered for FES are through the mail, like I mentioned earlier. And for MS Krill, it's a phone-based survey with an email option. Now, this wasn't uninformed, right? We did copy what LA Krill did, but our staff undertook an effort in 2019 to do an independent effort survey that used multiple different modes of communication with anglers to determine how their responses would look, given call-outs, emails, and mail. And what you saw is that the responses from all three of those looked as if they came from completely different populations. And what we saw is that for the phone-based portion, we had a higher proportion of low-level responses. Because when you get somebody on the phone and ask them how many times they went, they could tell you, I didn't go at all, I only went once, I only went twice. But if you send them something in the mail, our assumption is that a lot of individuals were receiving this. And if they had no stake in the activity whatsoever, didn't engage in the activity, that mail was simply thrown away. So you don't have the representation of those who only went 0, 1, or 2 times. Right, so you're missing that portion of the population. Email was actually the second most preferred, so I think our combination of phone and email has served us well for the effort side. Frequency, MRIP is every 2 months. It's waves. That's how they produce their estimates. This one actually can get all the way down to weekly, and we can collapse estimates as needed, but obviously we can understand that more timely estimates on a weekly fashion can likely help us understand what the fishery is doing, especially with season-based fisheries like we've been dealing with on the federal side. And then the population pool, demographic strata, and sample size. So MRIP in their revision, I think, post 2013, the goal was to produce an unbiased estimates for the entirety of the population. That means licensed and unlicensed, individuals within the license frame and outside of it. The full population of Mississippi was considered. Now, there's a couple issues that arise here. But one is the reliance that you're truly matching individuals that are within your license frame to those that aren't, that you're getting from the postal side of things. And then the other is that, whatever prevalence or affinity you're getting from a unlicensed population is representative. And what we saw with these estimates, we questioned a lot. We had calls. I mean, we went back and forth on this subject with them and never could get a good answer. But we had what looked like 8 times the amount of effort in the coastal unmatched strata as we did in the coastal matched strata, which essentially means that 80% of the effort that they were coming up with was from a unlicensed or non-compliant population. MS Krill alters that by essentially relying on the fishing license system for the most part across the board, right? We're focused on those individuals that have licenses. Of those that are licensed, they're separated into 4 demographic strata, which is coastal, non-coastal. Coastal is the lower 2 counties across the board. All right, so we have the 3, the ones above them, and that's it. Everything else is non-coastal. You got out of state for those folks who are out of state. And then you have the ROLP, which the regulation was passed a little while ago, but that's a recreational offshore landing permit. It essentially segments off what can be considered individuals with a higher prevalence for fishing that fish more often to be in their own universe so that they're not lumped in with a greater population that doesn't interact in the fishery the same way that they do. And then the adjustment is made on the back end for noncompliance. Because just like a driver's license, just like anything that is listed in the regulatory framework as far as licensing goes, our fishing licenses have over 90% compliance. We only have a couple instances where there isn't a requirement for a license, those that are under 16 or those that are fully disabled. Even our over 65 has a lifetime license assigned to it of one-time cost. So the assumption is that we'll get as much as we can from the licensed universe and then make adjustments for noncompliance because that's common sense. Not try to produce an estimate outright for those that are unmatched in our license frame. And we have a consistent sample size across the board, whereas theirs is a little bit, it's more variance based, and essentially allows more, sampling effort in Mississippi as compared to other states. But, what we've seen is that regardless of that increased sample size, we're not getting precise or accurate estimates from the effort survey itself on the MRIP side. On our side, we're seeing things come out a little bit better, and I'll show you those in a minute. So on the catch base side of things, so we conduct 9 surveys a week. We really took out a lot of the probability based or the equation based way that things are derived and try to operate with some level of consistency across the board. That's easier for our scheduling. That gets us out on the field more. That gets us representative in the times where there's lower pressure, which is where we seem to have the biggest issues. Ways 1, 2, 5, and 6. So it gets us out there and gets us interacting with the anglers throughout the entire year. For mode, we selected, 1 shore, 1 charter, 7 private. Private is where we've had all the issues. That's where our management is focused. Got a good handle on charter effort for the most part. Our shore-based effort, while there is a lot, there is not a lot of catch there. So we're allocating a lot of effort to a group that doesn't have that much catch, which is why the decision there has been made. Whereas on the others, it seems like oftentimes we're pushed to a lot of these shore-based areas. Got surveyors sitting there for 6 hours at a time, getting 1 to 2 surveys, sometimes none. So our goal was efficiency here, and I think we've gained that efficiency in the way we've designed it. Same thing with the day type. And then survey length. I don't know if any of y'all have gotten interviewed or heard of anybody getting interviewed, but essentially we went down from what was a 2-page, 2-column questionnaire with MRIP down to a half-page questionnaire that is done by party. MRIP is done by each individual. So if I had a vote of 6 folks come in, I would sit there and have to go through a 2-page survey with 6 people the entire time. Now, there's ways to make that more efficient, and our folks have done them, but by the manual, that's exactly how MRIP is supposed to be done. This one is by party. You select the representative from the party, usually one that's running the boat. Ask them about their day, what they called, everything else. You're in and out within a minute or 2. That allows you on the busy days at places like West Beach to interact with more individuals, get more detailed catch, so you're not missing and making assumptions about people you're not seeing. So that's a benefit. And then the slight selection pressure, MRIP's site frame was essentially done categorically. So it was 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Each one of those represented various levels of effort that you'd encounter throughout the day. It's important to note here that a lot of these decisions were made out of pilot testing in places like Florida and North Carolina, not in smaller states. They had higher throughput. That means that in our categories, for all of our sites, we're essentially constrained to 1 or 2. And the range goes all the way up to 6. So a lot of our sites, a lot of our pressure categories match across the board, which means the selection probabilities were almost identical, which means we were going out to areas that we shouldn't have been in certain times of the year and getting a lot of zeros. This one, with MS Creel, we were able to move that into a continuous, right? So the exact number that we expected to see, which then spread it out and then allowed our selection probabilities to really be more representative of the overall fishery. And we'll be able to show that in the figures as well. So this is the results of the effort survey from 2024 and 2025. As you can see here when we started, see the dome shape, the higher affinity for not only offshore in that yellow color, but also the Barrier Island fishing occur in the middle parts of the year. Right, so we see that little bit of dome shape with it tapering off in the colder months. And then here in 2025, we've got the program going, everything's done, all of our testing, all of our changes, everything else. We've got this program well and going. You can see it's following exactly how we'd expect it to go. Offshore effort occurs in the summertime. We have island effort that occurs in the summertime, but we see a taper off in effort on ways 1, 2, 5, and 6, which is January through April, and then the back end of the year. All right, this is, don't take anything out of what I presented so far. This is one of the parts to understand. So MS Creel effort is on the left in blue. MRIP effort is on the right in green. You can see the dome-shaped effort where you have higher effort estimates in the summertime, waves 3, 4, and 5. you see a drop off. MRIP has a little bit of an increase in wave 5, but the main thing to pay attention to here is the scale. The max estimate of effort for MS Grill is 100,000. Max effort for MRIP is 1.2 million. Tenfold difference across the board. That means we've still got a fundamental difference between the surveys. And a lot of it is going to exist right here in effort. We're going to go to the next ones to show you that it doesn't exist anywhere else for the most part. Here's the dockside pressure. So I mentioned it earlier. We think we're doing a pretty good job with representation. You can essentially see that on the right in blue is our assigned pressures down the line. Here on the left, you can see it overall matches the pattern. There's a couple that stick out, right? Those are Point Park, Gulfport Small Craft, Long Beach. Everybody here, y'all have interacted with a lot of those places. You've seen them. Those places can get crazy certain times of the year, certain weekends, stuff like that. That's what's driving these differences or single day interactions that are going above. But for the most part, we're matching what we observe in the field to what we calculated as far as our site pressures go, which means we're doing a pretty good job on the selection side. All right, so interacting dockside, surveys and everything else. This slide is meant to show you MS Krill is in blue, MRIP is in green. We've got the 4 most common inshore species. In reality, right, we're interacting or observing similar counts of these species on each one of these surveys. To get into the minutiae of it, there's a little bit of difference, but for the most part, the dockside portion remains relatively the same. We're seeing a similar amount of species. We're getting more anglers, but the makeup of the catch isn't changing that much. The difference is in the application when it comes to producing a final estimate. So if you pay attention, let's say to spotted sea trout, right? For January and February, reserve almost the same. March, April, MRIP observes more. May, June, MS Krill observes more. But if you look at the figure on the right, which is the harvest estimates that are produced, in every one of those instances, MRIP is multifold higher, right? That's not the dockside portion. That's not what we're observing at the dock making the difference. It's the effort portion that I described earlier. That's where the difference is always applied. That's where we continue to see these differences at, regardless of the program that we input. All right. So in summary, once again, that effort is the primary driver. That's the part to take home. We've done our best with it. It seems like what we're observing is relative to the fishery, consistent, it's logical, it matches the license frame, it's realistic. We're still not seeing the same on the other side. I regard the results from MS Krill as overall positive. I've tried to do my best to illustrate that today. It seems like in every aspect of the program, we're outperforming the federal side and producing a more accurate and precise result. The good thing about this program is that it'll have continued improvement. So in the past, we've made suggestions for the MRIP program. We'd like to be able to do this. We'd like to see us not go to as many sites that produce zeros. We want to put our folks out where they're being more efficient and interactive with more anglers. All of that wouldn't result in a change to the federal program. It doesn't have the flexibility to change on a whim, and there's a little bit of refusal to do that. With MS Krill, we can make those changes, update our site pressures, we can reevaluate the program, we can make those changes that aren't fundamental changes to the program that make it into a different one, but simply increase its ability to produce precise and accurate estimates. And that's one of the benefits here. And I think it's going to benefit us overall across the board. I think we talked about spotted sea trout. We use index-based monitoring at the moment. This kind of action will allow us to incorporate catches to another side of the picture. I think overall will be a benefit to the state. Our next step is essentially submission to the program for certification by NOAA. We've gotten together our preliminary documentation. We've coordinated with Alabama. We've had Louisiana help us out multiple times. We've coordinated with Gulf States. We've even sent stuff over to NOAA for them to look at. We're likely going to send all this stuff within the month once it's reviewed internally and everything else, and it'll go to them for review. We're hoping it's going to be swift. It's similar to Louisiana. We're going to match up Alabama exactly, so I'm hoping it'll be somewhat expedient. I'm hoping it'll be, a little bit quicker than what we've dealt with in the past. And then this is the first part. I hate to be the person who's looking too far forward, right? I'd love to get this passed and, say a good job, but the next step is that upon certification, there will have to be a concerted effort on not only transition, there's going to be talks of calibration, and then the fundamental changes to Gulf wide assessment and management of federal species. That is going to be a big hurdle. What we've been talking about for the last 3 years, last 4 years really, with all these programs and what we've been doing. But when the rubber meets the road, there's going to be a lot of tough conversations, a lot of changes, and there's going to be a lot of disagreement. I'm just hoping that the momentum that we've built will allow us to carry forward and continue to make changes that will continue to benefit our anglers as a whole. Didn't want to get through this presentation without at least acknowledging, my staff, and really everybody in marine fisheries that's helped us across the board. My staff have been doing both MRIP and MS Krill on top of all their duties and everything else. It's been a tough year for them, sacrificing a lot of weekends out there doing their job and everything else. So I'll give a lot of credit to them for doing it, and then the other states for helping us as well. Louisiana and Alabama specifically, we've been interacting with them pretty consistently on this and trying to move out in stride. Both states has been a major contributor for us. They've been helping secure funding, helping with discussions between us and the federal side of things, help bolster it. And even Gulf Council and NOAA, they're on board with it. They've been helping us along the process. I think, even at the director's level, there's been a lot of communication there as far as where we're going with the program. But I'll take any questions y'all have on this.
So does this mean we're gonna catch snapper in October?
The goal is, right, so I talked about it in a previous meeting. There's a couple different directions here. One is the direct interaction with as far as state allocation and everything else that'll come out. The other one is management advice being produced for the stock. There hasn't been a stock assessment in a while, but trying to use FES and figure out ways to combine between all these different programs, and it just hasn't been a product that's, to me, moved forward. With us moving to MS Krill, AL Krill, LA Krill, eventually there'll be a pathway in which there'll be a new currency across the board for recreational fishing and red snapper catch. And a lot of that's going to come with some assumptions about the past that are going to have to go away. Big part of it is assuming that all our removals are accurate. When proving that record to be not true. We haven't known our landings in that specific, which means we need to undertake some level of multi-year averaging and essentially smooth out the time series assessment to produce management advice. A lot of that stuff is years. All we can do on our side and what we plan to do is present our argument, present what we've done, say how it backs up what we've been saying for the last little while, and really illustrate the point that we've been doing our part. We've been partnering in this process. But it seems like we've been scrutinized every step of the way, every time we've made a point or every time we've taken a step. And in reality, we should have never calibrated to begin with because of how inaccurate the MRIP survey operates in our state. So we'll see where that falls. But if not, there's the other long-term things that are going on now and next few years.
Well, Trevor, I know that having that offshore permit has really helped us a lot, even with MREP. Because, I mean, they can't look at the 80,000 now. They have to look at what the offshore permit is. Is that correct?
I would say that they have to recognize that it's there for sure, and then compare their estimates to what is truly being, the population is truly out there.
How many offshore permits do we have right now? Do you know?
It sits right around a few thousand every year. We had a slight increase this year. I think that's just more folks aware of the program and everything else. The key, I think, is that I spoke to it earlier. There's been a lot of times where we've pushed for change with the MRIP program. We have, I mean, it's not like we're sitting back and just complaining, right? We're not sitting back and saying this is wrong, this is wrong. We're coming to them. We've had these conversations at multiple levels of We think this change would help us. We think this change would help us. All these things would aid in the program overall, but because it's a federal program, because of the regulations that surround it, and because of, I guess the operational momentum that they've had for decades, they're just not willing to make those changes. And really for a state like ours, I think it's so low on the totem pole that oftentimes it just kind of gets forgotten until a true problem comes up.
Well, I can tell you, Gulf Council now is getting to see a little bit more because Amberjack, just to give you an idea, to tell you how broke MREP is. And he showed you the numbers here that would say that we caught 57,000 against 2,000. Come on. That's the numbers. That's what's so crazy about it because of the way that they do their system. Just to give you an idea, we can land 2 Amberjack that are about 40 pounds apiece here in Mississippi and close the season for the whole Gulf of America. Does that tell you something? Because it would tell us instead of that 80 pounds, we'd be about 800,000 pounds. And that's how bad MREP is broken. That's how bad this system is, but you cannot get them to understand that. And, the hardest thing in the world with NOAA is to get them to change because they don't like the word change. And it's hard to get them to understand that, but we're trying hard to get them to understand it. And this is perfectly, Louisiana did this and it worked. We're doing it with Alabama and I think it'll work. I hope it works because if it don't, I'm going to have a different attitude about what we're going to do. But if it doesn't work, I don't know. Maybe I'll go Texas on them. And, but that's what I keep telling them all the time. I'm going to go Texas on you if you keep messing with me because, Texas don't care. They just do what they want to. And, but I'm not saying they're not doing it right. I'm just saying that they got it figured out. But the point I'm getting at is we've had it and we've took it long enough in Mississippi. There is no doubt that we shouldn't be at the 150,000 pounds in snapper. There's no question about it. If you don't believe it right now, go out there and look at the commercial fishermen and they go out and catch what they want to any day right now. Because, but they could do it. It's there. The snapper are there. We had to close our season because of MREP and because of the way that they did it. How does this match up to Tails and Scales, the MS creel?
So far, the data points are small, but we've been within 10% of the overall estimate for both the years. Really, we've been somewhat closer.
Yeah.
Down there. So it matches up in magnitude and it matches up in observation, similar to what Tails and Scales program has produced. Another checkbox of doing something right.
And it's it's amazing the way that things are going right now. And obviously, like I said, to get them to understand, but I will tell you something we do have in Mississippi. We have Trevor Moncrief sitting on the SES, and Trevor has made a heck of an impression to the people there. I have not talked to a single one of them that told me any different other than they thought that you were probably one of the best that they've ever had. And I don't know if you're the chairman or not, but you ought to be. But you have made an impression. You have made an impression on them, and they understand this. And we appreciate it. And we appreciate your team working as hard as they've worked on this. We know that y'all worked hard with this. We know you've had to do a lot of extra work, but we stepped up to the plate. They stepped up and said, hey, we're going to do this for a year, and we're going to see if we can't make Mississippi come out better in this deal. And thank you very much for your help and your whole team.
Yeah, I was just going to say that's the best play is you have the neighboring states. So if the scrutiny's coming down, then you got to scrutinize all 3 states, right?
That's right.
And the only other comment I had was what's the sample size of the 10,000 or whatever license holders do you feel like you guys are reaching to phone call wise or email? What was that?
Oh, if I remember right, I don't know if I have it on the slide, but it's a couple thousand every week.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. I've had a few phone calls, very painless, 1 minute or less. I mean, it's quick, in and out.
Yeah, so
Makes me feel like I hadn't fished enough whenever I get the phone.
Yeah, at its max, it's around 1,000, especially during snapper season. So we're covering pretty good. And I'll say, so the benefit about doing it weekly too, I didn't say this, but, if we go out and observe during the week, regardless if we get a low sample size issue or some outlier or anything else, typically it's constrained by what we observe. So if we get a low sample size that produces a high effort estimate, but we're out there at the docks and we're not seeing anybody because it's 30 and no one's out, then that effort estimate is essentially canceled out. So it works out both ways. And that's what Louisiana's seen too. So.
You know, the reason too, I was told that NOAA cannot do phone calls anymore because the federal government will not allow them to do the phone calls. They can only do the mail-in. They used to use phone calls years ago, and then they went away from it because of something to do with some rule. I don't know what it was.
Doing household telephones.
Yeah.
What was it? There was some term they had for it, but essentially it was that everyone was transitioning out of household phones and moving on to cell phones.
And
This is from directly from the license database, so most folks are giving
yeah,
cell phones, we're calling cell phones.
and it was something to do with a violation of calling cell phones. I don't remember what it was, but anyway, but we can do it. They can't do it.
Better for us, I guess.
And keeping it in-house is a good play too. Then you know what you're getting. So. Good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Amazing, Trevor. Appreciate it. Yep, you got another one coming up.
We got a few records, 3 to be exact. So we got one conventional tackle. It's a Winchman snapper. We've actually had a few of these landed, but we finally have one submitted for a record. It's 4.8 ounces. Angler's Mr. Chris Barlow. There is a picture of the fish. There is Mr. Barlow with that 4.8 ounce fish. And then we've got an all tackle record, or 2 all tackle records. The first is Yellow Edge Grouper. The old record is 41 pounds. That new record is 44 pounds. The angler is Holt Gamble. Picture of the fish. Mr. Gamble with the fish. That's a fairly impressive yellow edge there. Then we had another one, Southern Hake. The old record was 1 pound even. The new record is pounds 8 ounces. And this is from Cooper Wrightson. He is actually a youth angler, but his catch qualifies as the overall all tackle specifications. The overall. Yep. All we need is just a recommendation to approve those state records.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Trevor.
Appreciate it.
I did.
All right. Do we have any other business or public comment?
I said
don't
motion.
believe we didn't receive any public comments.
No, I don't, but I would like to bring up one thing real quick. There's been some questions about some stuff with the Menhaden and all, and I was talking to Jeff and them a while ago about this, and we was talking about what we're doing there and everything else. And, you know, people will put out a picture, they see something, they'll put out something, and it makes it look like it's a little different than what it is. But I've talked with them, and obviously, if you want to brief anything on it, you can. Y'all, either one of y'all, would be glad to do that. But, you know, so one of the things that was brought out the other day was about them catching some fish and basically saying that the fish that they had caught, that if they were dead, no, they were all turned back alive. And, you know, and it was some things that were brought out. But I think, you know, some of the times you get the fishermen out there that they see something, they take a picture, and sometimes it's not 100% the truth. So would one of y'all like to speak to any of that at all? But I just want to bring it up to the fact, I want the people to know the facts about what you do every time, if you could.
While he's walking up, I'll say that the comments or the calls that I've received hadn't really been about dead fish. I think it was the guides that were out there fishing in the pocket of tarpon, and then it was I think some of the boats came in on them. They had some conversation on the radio, and they came in, and I mean it's a we'll call it a honey hole on the south side back there, and I think that was the biggest complaint that I heard was just yeah, okay.
Half a mile away from these fishermen, when they did get some tarpon in the net, these fishermen came up to them. They got the tarpon out. There were no casualties to the fish at all. They were all rolled out and swam away alive. They did get harassed from these gentlemen on the radio. They told me that they didn't really respond to them, but they did hear them. They were talking about, well, we're going to go around, we're going to find some dead fish, and they were never able to find any. Like I said, they all swam away, but we did get statements from captains. This worked its way up the food chain with Mega Protein. Wanted to get ahead of it and see what we got. And from everything that we were able to discover, there were no dead fish whatsoever. You're going to catch some stuff in nets. All the fish were out of the net. There was no casualties of the fish at all.
So just for clarification, the tarpon that were released, how did y'all get them out? My understanding's always been that everything gets vacuumed out, then they run through whatever and get spit out the other side.
Sometimes it works that way, Ronnie, but a lot of times it's basically out of the net or out over the net. That way you're not going to get everything through. You've got devices and allow everything. Saw the video of that tarpon. It was a pretty big.
Yeah. And that's common practice. If they spot something like that, especially a tarpon, they're going to make an effort to get that fish out of the net without going through the vacuum.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think in the, I didn't hear of any fish kills. I don't know who brought that up. I think the biggest complaint that I heard was just you got a guide fisherman, I think there was about 7 or 8 boats, and then of course the nogi boats, and it's just kind of a battle for territory, I guess, in that one area.
And from both the statements I got from captains, one of the boats was about half a mile away, and one was about 3/4 of a mile away when they made those sets from those.
10-4. Any other questions?
I just wanted to bring it up because, once again, we get the calls, I get to and look at it, and we look at everything. But, we need to get both sides of the story, and that's all I'm asking. We get both sides of the story on there and let everybody have the honest truth about what's going on.
Thank you. All right. Wow. Okay. Any other business or any other comments? If not, I guess we have a motion to close.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, everyone.